Hi everyone, my name is Joseph and welcome to Digimon Liberator, the comic portion 5.1, and it's titled Real. So this chapter I found to be quite intriguing. I'm actually looking forward to part 2 of chapter 5, mostly because it seems like there might not be any card battle. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this chapter really seems to set up the fact that it does a lot of world building rather than setting up an actual proper fight in the same way that Chapter 1 has the rogue NPC, and the same way that Violet or Vi chooses to engage with Ariza. So I'm really looking forward to the next chapter, just because this might be me having too much, too much. That was a combination of many and much. Um, Too much expectations, but I said in I think the chapter 1 video, or the chapter 1-1 or 1.1, excuse me, and I think it would be really cool if if Liberator had two kinds of battles: the card battles that takes place between the tamers, and then also the just like the regular battles that the fans are used to from the other anime shows and the Seekers, of course, right? The reason why I think it would be cool to have two kinds of battle systems, just because the card system will obviously be there for those who are into the total card game. The is that what it's called, the TCG? I always forget what the T stands for. Trade card game. Anywho, but for those who are familiar, excuse me, for those who are familiar with card games, that's going to attract them. And then for those other individuals who are more like myself, who have less experience with the card games and more experience with the anime, well, then having traditional battles would be a little bit more appealing and attractive to fans like myself. I don't really think that's too much of an issue, just because we're already in chapter 5. And then each chapter is split up into two halves as well. So technically, 10 parts of the full story. And so far, we haven't gotten any, or not 10, excuse me, 9. Once the next part for 5 comes out, then it'll be 10. But as I stated before in previous videos, as someone who's never played the card game, I'm having a lot of fun with the descriptions and the depictions of the battles within Liberator. But with that being said, I think it would be kind of cool to see a traditional. I haven't read V-Tamer. I do know that V-Tamer was being released at the same time as Adventure 1. I do want to check that out eventually. So I haven't seen any like battles from V-Tamer. I'm sure that they do have panels where the Digimon is fighting other Digimon that are trying to hurt the Taichi from that version, right? So I mentioned that just because I think it would be kind of cool to see a Digimon battle that's not in the anime format but in the webcomic format. And also a battle that's taking place in a more traditional sense as well, rather than the new. I personally, when I read Liberator, or rather not when I read, when I engage with the battle sections, it really does remind me of Mega Man Battle Network. And I really do mean that in a positive way. So yeah. So again, something more traditional. I really jumped ahead with this portion. I went from the beginning of the chapter all the way to the end, where it gets revealed that the group, specifically Shoto and Arisa, they're being taken to a new area called the Garden, and they're being taken there by the GM Kuboy, or Kugai, no Kuboy, excuse me, Kuboy. And we get introduced to a new character. I have her name right here to the side because I knew I wouldn't be able to pronounce it, or rather, I think I could pronounce it, but I would have forgotten how it's spelled, and thus more of a likelihood of me mispronouncing it. Excuse me, that was a hiccup. But her name is Yao Quinn Glan, or rather, she says to call her by Yao Chan. So hopefully, I'm pronouncing that part correctly. The Yao, Y-A-O. But we're introduced to that new character, Yao Chan. She's apparently part of the developing team. So she's part of IDEA. It seems to be an aberration for something. We don't know what it's abbreviated for, but essentially IDEA is the developers for the Liberator game and another game. I forgot the name of it. Actually, here we go, right here. The development company for TALE, that's also an abbreviated TALE, and Liberator. Oh no, TALE, excuse me. I believe that's connected to Liberator, or rather Laconia, the system that runs Laconia. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was already described like in chapter 1 or 1-1. So pardon me for forgetting about that. Unfortunately, though, I can't recall what it specifically stands for. But yeah, I think Yao Chan's going to be an interesting character, just because I was shocked when they introduced her being part of the development company. That might be a minor detail. Maybe that's not going to come back again in the future. But the fact that she's part of a development company rather than just I thought she was going to be a GM or like a code cracker of some kind, or someone who works with works excuse me, someone who works with code cracking, kind of like maybe a Easter egg seekers or something like that. But I think it's really interesting that rather she works for the development company. She might still be like a code cracker or something like that for the code company. But the reason why I find it so interesting is because the fact that they're stating the detail that she works for the development company. For me, I'm doing this symbol because for me it just seems like it's an umbrella term that's covering both Tell and Liberator. So essentially, if one I'm trying to think of an analogy here. I guess a simple one because Disney owns everything. Uh, if one works for like, I think Disney now owns Hulu, and one works for Hulu, that could be like Tell, and also we'll say the streaming service, specifically the streaming service Disney Plus. So Hulu will be Tell, and the Disney Plus would be Liberator. Those who work for the actual Disney company, I would argue that they're going to be in a quote unquote above position. So essentially, someone who's a CEO for Disney would be above the CEO for Disney Plus, would be above the CEO for Hulu, or rather, the CEO for Disney will be above the CEO for Hulu, who will be equal to the CEO for Disney Plus. I don't know why that will be any different. But both of them will be answering to the CEO for Disney. So that's why I found that kind of intriguing. Again, I might be looking too much into it. It might just be a minor detail and nothing will come from that. But I thought it was a cool detail to include. It really helps to make the world building stand out, in my opinion. The reason being, even if we don't come back to that detail, it just makes it seem like the people who work behind Laconia and the Liberator game. Again, as a quick reminder, Liberator, specifically the VR game, it's not the total the TCG, the card game itself. That's separate. The card game is when one plays a card game. Liberator is when one plays a card game in the VR setting via the digital world, quote unquote, digital world of Laconia. So hopefully I explained myself fine through that portion. I also think it was really cool. I'm not gonna lie, I gasped a little bit when I knew that the revelation of the wild Digimon would be done sooner rather than later, just because it's a comic and they can't really waste time. But the fact that Cool Boy was already aware, and Yao Chan, Yao, oops, because I moved it, dang it. Yes, Yao Chan. The fact that they were already aware, and I like how they had their explanation too. They found out, or rather, they confirmed after the maintenance update. Excuse me. So the maintenance update is something that occurs in this part 5, where it forces all the players to log off. And we also find out, and I'm curious about this white space that Petromon was talking about. Was he referring to the garden? So Petromon explains that when Shoto and Ariza log out, they go to this white area. To me, it kind of sounded existential at first, but then Shumon says that he actually, or she actually, quite enjoys it. Feels peaceful and calm there. So obviously Terramon, I would argue, is just an individual who is much more extroverted compared to Shumon. I think the lack of being able to communicate is what really drives him crazy. But it makes me curious again, if when they go into this white space, are they able to communicate? They being the Digimon, can they communicate with one another? Or are they just isolated? I hope they go back to that and maybe give some more detail about that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Pokemon and the Pokeballs. I've always kind of wondered, not in a serious kind of way, but like in a comical kind of way, and I'm sure people have made jokes about it too, but what do the Pokemon do when they're inside their Pokeballs? Are they just isolated and kept to themselves? Or is there like some kind of landscape or something inside of the Pokeball? Some kind of minuscule mini habitat or something like that, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So in the novel portion of Liberator, the last one that introduces Rio, excuse me, it's stated that which one? Toranamon explains that the group needs to avoid going to a specific direction, because in that direction, that's where the GMs are training another GM. Correct me if I'm wrong about that detail. They're training someone. And that portion of the video I stated, I assumed that it was Shoto and Ariza. On this chapter, I was expecting them to, when they said they had something to show to Shoto and Ariza, I was expecting Cool Boy and Yao Chan to announce that Shoto and Ariza would be new GM, since, as they explain, they're two players who have a lot more play time compared to other players. Maybe they will become GMs in the future, but I found that to be interesting. I'm looking forward to why are Cool Boy and Yao-chan, why are they showing the garden to Shoto and to Arisa? So yeah, I kind of feel like I went backwards with this part. I jumped straight up to the climax. I'll be frank with everyone. I was excited when they reviewed the garden. I think it's really cool that the digital monsters are real, hence the name of this chapter. I also thought it was really cool how Cool Boy and Yao-chan, as already stated, they were aware about the wild Digimon that are working with Shoto and Arisa. As always, I do appreciate Terumon's behavior. I think it's really cool how he explains that he doesn't like being by himself, essentially. I like how, oh, and the line that I really want to share with everyone is just one that reinforces the cuteness, in my opinion. But let me go to the beginning of it. So Shumon, this is after Terumon explains he doesn't like going to this white space. And then Shumon explains, personally, well, I guess I'll just read Terumon's portion. Ever since I became a card, I get sent to this strange place whenever you log out. It's so boring, and I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. And poor Terumon is facing away from the group. We see his back on the panel, and he has his wings/hands on his head, looking quite distraught. And poor Arisa has a sympathetic smile as she questions a strange place. Personally, I like that place. Shumon looks quite happy and content, looking as if she's reminiscing or even daydreaming about this place. Well, I hate it. It's so peaceful, I can't stand it. And Terumon, you just see his head with those traditional angry symbols that everyone has ever seen, like Pokemon, any kind of anime, or read any kind of manga, they know what I'm referring to. Kind of looks like tic-tac-toe a little bit, but not completely. No matter how much you hate it, this is coming from Shoto, and his panel has him explaining to Terumon, no matter how much you hate it, you have to go because of maintenance. I'm begging you, at least keep me company until you log out. Terumon is like this, having a moment of discussion with Shoto. And Shoto looks happy. A little bit of like a sigh is coming out from his mouth, but he doesn't, despite it being sigh-like, his face is not in a sigh formation at all. He has a huge smile, and then he says, I guess I should. I think there is a risk to data if I log out at the last minute, so I can only keep you company for 20 minutes. And Terumon looks quite happy, and Shoto and Arisa are sitting down on the grass with Shumon and Terumon. Shoto, it's not stated who states that, but it wouldn't surprise me if everyone's saying that, or it's just Arisa. And the last panel before they log out is again just all of them sitting on the grass, just looking quite adorable. And then I guess one little component, good thing I read this portion, is because we get introduced. This character was shown in chapter 1-1, in case one forgets, when Terumon and Shumon first appears. They seem to be either running away or being chased by a woman with silver/gray hair. And I believe she has purple eyes. Let me double check. Yep, very Targaryen-like. I'm sorry, guys. I just finished reading the Song of Ice and Fire, so I think that's why I made that slight little joke. But she has purple eyes, silver/gray hair, and she seems to be maybe not spying, but observing our group. She has no dialogue. It's just ellipses, and I'm sure we'll get more information about her in the future. So I'm not going to lie, between this part and the novel portion itself, I think the writers, did such a great job with Ryu's character and his introduction. I'm not to say that between the novel and the webcomic, I think I like as if for this week at least, I think I enjoyed the novel more. But again, it's only because I really did enjoy Ryu's character. With that being said, though, I'm still enjoying Digimon Liberator. And I'm looking forward to the next part because I want to see how the group's going to interact with the Digimon in the garden. If the battle is going to be any different when one is interacting with the Digimon from the garden, the wild Digimon. And then, of course, I want to see what Cool Boy and Yao-chan have in store for Shoto and Arisa and a mysterious woman as well. And then, as always, Terumon, he's just adorable, and so is Shumon. So their interactions and engagement with each other and with their their human partners, I'm always looking forward to that too. So my question for everyone this week is, how did you guys feel about the reveal that there are quote-unquote real Digimon, that the wild Digimon are separate from or seems to be separate from the card Digimon? It seems like the card Digimon are indeed just digital, while it's the digital monsters in the garden, while they're also digital, they're digital in a natural kind of way. They develop themselves in the digital world as we're also used to. Everyone has kept up with Seekers, not Frontier, I'm sorry, Savers, the way the digital world develop alongside the human world, and then of course Adventure 1 and Adventure 2, and even Tamers. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so again, to reiterate, my question for everyone is, what was my question? I don't know. I lost my chain of thought. Let me think really quickly, everyone. Sorry about that. Um, Oh, sorry, sorry about that. My question again was, what's your opinion about the wild Digimon in the garden? Are you looking forward to what will be done with them, or are you a little bit apprehensive because you might be feeling, oh no, we're gonna go back and treading old ground? Maybe one will prefer that we stick with just this new aspect of the cards and the card system and everything like that. As always, I really thank you everyone for your patience, for listening slash watching. I hope you have a prodigious day. Pardon me with my hair. I know I fixed it in the middle of it, and I think there's a little bit of a patch up back there as well. Not a patch, but like, boop, it was fluffing off. I'll be honest, as a quick reminder, I'm usually not looking at the camera. I am looking at the camera, but I'm not looking at like the screen that shows myself. I'm reading the page that has seekers and the quotes and all that. But yeah, thank you for your patience again and for bearing with me for that explanation. Have a prodigious day. To reiterate, my question is, what's your opinion about the wild Digimon? Are you looking forward to what we've done with them, or are you a little bit apprehensive? Take care, everyone. Have a prodigious day.